Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for joining. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, specifically from a fraudster's perspective. A couple of words about myself. I've been in startups for 21 years, in product for 14 years, and in fraud for 6 years. And today, specifically, we're going to talk about a very interesting angle of fraud, which is Bitcoin, or another way to see it, a very interesting perspective of Bitcoin, which is fraud. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the need. First of all, what is Bitcoin, and how come it became so popular, and what's its value? What does it give? We'll talk about how does it work very briefly, and then we're going to dive into Bitcoin and fraud, talking about very interesting scenarios in Bitcoin fraud, and then we'll have time, of course, for questions and answers. Let's continue. Well, just like any other product or service, Bitcoin has a reason for its existence. There is a mission behind it. There is a user problem. That's for all you product managers out there. Now, the main user problem that we had in the world is that the monetary system is very, it doesn't really function well. Meaning, you don't control your money. You think you do, but you don't. But it's okay, because your money is a bluff anyway. It loses its value day by day, and it costs much to handle it. Now, all this seems just like I need to have an aluminum foil on my head, and I need to talk about conspiracy theories and Illuminati and stuff like that. But let's go step by step and see what happened to the monetary systems along the years. So a quick review about the history of money. Well, if we're looking back tens of thousands of years back, there was what we call barter, meaning I had wheat, you had a goat, and in order to perform commerce, I would give you bags of wheat, you would give me your goat, and we would go happy to our ways. Now, it's not that useful, because what happens if I want to sell only the amount of wheat which is equals to half a goat, or I need now to take my wheat for thousands of miles? Humans have created things which represent value, aka money. And the first examples that we see from Africa are teeth of lions, for example, or in Papua New Guinea, we see shells, rare shells. Now, what we see in common for all of them is that they were very rare, and they required a lot of effort to get them. I mean, no lion would give their teeth voluntarily. No clam would get out of the deep ocean and just present itself. So when people had these, it represented that they have invested a lot of effort in order to get that. And then one could have traded that tooth for bags of wheat, etc. So these kinds of very basic kind of money went on for years until the precious metals came in, and number one is, of course, gold. Now, what's so great about gold? Well, first of all, again, it's very rare, and it requires effort in order to get it. If you have gold, this means you probably mined it, and you gave a lot of effort to get it. Now, gold is soft, so you can divide it very easily to pieces, and it does not rust, it does not rot. So it became a very popular store of value and a mean of exchange for many years. And after a while, instead of waiting gold at the market, what people did was to mine to mint these gold chunks into coins. And then you had pieces of gold in a already known weight, and then you could pay with them. Now, that was great. but it's not that comfortable to just wander around with a huge and heavy bag of gold. So people have created banks, and these banks have offered a service. You give us gold, and we provide you a note. And this note says that once you come to us with this note, you will get back gold, no questions asked, for a specific amount. So if I have gold, I can now go to the bank. I provide the gold to the bank. The bank gives me notes. I go and I buy stuff at the market. Now the merchant can now go with this note to the bank, give this note to the bank, and get gold in exchange. But of course, there's no reason to do so, because you can hold the note and you can roll it over. And so by the end of the 19th century, the United States and Western and Central Europe were working with the gold standard, meaning the money was backed up by gold. And it was great. The commerce went up. The most important inventions were made then. Wars were shorter than ever. It was a great time. You can look at the lower right corner here. You would see the $1 bill, but this is not the $1 bill we have today. This is a $1 bill from the beginning of the 20th century, and it says in very small letters just above the $1, will pay to the bearer on demand, meaning you could have gone to the bank with $1 and get gold in return. Now, what happened to our money? Well, first of all, there was a First World War, and then the Second World War, and then there was a Bretton Woods agreement. We won't go into that, but the most important thing was that in 1971, President Nixon broke the connection between US and gold. Meaning, if up until then, the German government could have given so-and-so Deutschmarks and get dollars for them, and then for the dollars they could have gotten gold. Starting from August 12, 1971, there is no more connection between money and gold. Meaning, for the Deutschmarks, I can get dollars, and for the dollars, I can get Deutschmarks, and so on. Meaning, money isn't based on gold anymore. Money isn't based on anything anymore. Now, is it bad? Let's look at it. This actually means that a government can print money as much as they want to. They just have to press a Command P in their Macs and money would be printed. This is why this is called easy money. If money which is based on gold requires you to get gold before you print it, meaning to get value before you are allowed to print, now governments can just print money. So it's easy money. The name of the type of money that we have today is also called fiat. Fiat in Latin means so let it be done, meaning I want more money, no problem, so let it be done. We can print as much money as we want. Now, this requires trust. This requires us as citizens to trust our government, that it would not print an infinite amount of money. Because naturally, if the government prints more money, if I have today, let's say, $100, and now the government has printed a lot of money, my dollar is now much more common. It has less buying power. It means prices are going up. This is inflation, meaning when governments print money, my money as a citizen loses value due to inflation. Now, Keynesian economists claim it's beneficial and that's the best way to work, and that's how things should be done, and things do not go wrong usually. The problem is things do go wrong, and if we take a very brief look at history, we can find here a few examples out of many. In the Roman Empire in the year 312, the emperor has decided to turn the golden coins into tin coins, and the Empire Roman fell, the Western Roman Empire. In China, the first fiat money named jiaozi caused the collapse of that Chinese dynasty. South Vietnam, 1975, the state has dissolved, and so all of the South Vietnamese money has dissolved. In Israel, 1984, for people who are like me and remember that, in one night, the money has lost 9% of the value because the government decided to print more money. In Zimbabwe, 2008, the money value has been scraped to zero. Now they are using US dollars, they don't have their own money anymore. In Venezuela, 2 years ago, the inflation has gone so high that they cannot even measure it. And if you look, and of course, let's not miss our corona. The US Federal Reserve has printed in April $2.3 trillion. Now, let's see what happens. I guess it's going to be fun. Not. By the way, Gilit, here's the reason why not to be optimistic. And you can see that central banks still hold gold. Now, you would expect that if gold was disconnected to money, then it would be just, a metal meant for jewelry or for industry. But still, the value of gold, if you compare to the value of the US dollar since 1971, well, the dollar has gone down by 99.5% versus gold. What does that mean? So our first problem with the money today is that, nothing backs it. Second problem is that you don't control the money. You usually put your money in the bank. Now, money in the bank means you don't control it, the bank does. Meaning if you want to transfer money but the bank doesn't allow you, the money won't be transferred. And the money can be taken away. We have several examples from Cyprus 7 years ago, from Israel from 1984, where the government has just taken money out from people's accounts. It was your money? Well, not anymore. It's not really your money. So on 2008, a person or a group named Satoshi Nakamoto offered a solution. And that solution says, let's create hard money, meaning it can't be printed to infinity. It can't be just created out of thin air. There would be a code. And that code would say how much money can be created, and that would be a finite amount of money. It can't be created no more than a finite supply. It also said there would be no central server, no central trusted party, meaning there is no government, there is no organization, there is no company. It's totally decentralized. Nobody controls it. And let's make it in a way that every transaction would be very cheap and easy to verify and very hard in order to commit fraud, meaning that every transaction can be very easily verified. Now, the nice thing about it, it wasn't just an idea. 3 months after he issued his white paper, he released the code, and the code actually works. It works from January 2009 until today, and it works with maximum uptime. Now, how does Bitcoin work? What is behind all of this? The idea is that every transaction is recorded by every member of the network. The network is you and me, everybody who has a Bitcoin wallet on their mobile phone or on their PC or on their laptop. And every transaction is recorded, every transaction is being verified, everything is being done behind the scene. It does not require huge amounts of energy in order to do so. And we are all sharing the same common ledger of balances and transactions, meaning you and me can all agree of all the past transactions. There is one ledger which is being fully distributed between all the node members. Now, whenever a sum is transferred from address A to address B, all of the members can easily verify that that the sender from address A has enough balance to do so. And they can see that the person who is transferring from A to B has the right to do so, has the signature that can do this action. And all of us nodes are competing to be the first one to update the ledger with a new block of transaction. And here we're coming to the magical word blockchain. What is the idea here of blockchain? Well, blockchain is very simple. The whole idea is to having a decentralized ledger, a distributed ledger. Each block in this blockchain has a group of transactions. So And each block of transactions, let's say there was a transaction from Alice to Bob, and there was a transaction from Charlie to David, and so, and now we gather a group of transactions, and now they need to be validated. As we said, validating is very easy. Mathematically speaking, we're working with private keys and public keys. We're not going to dig into this now, but mathematically, it's very easy to validate that indeed the transactions are okay. Now, why should I do this effort? Why should I validate a block of transaction which I don't take place? Well, the incentive is that's a way to get Bitcoins. If I'm the first to validate a block, I get a reward. Currently, it's 6.25 Bitcoins. Now, that's a lot of money. So I have a very strong incentive to be the first to do so. Now, if I have a strong incentive to do so, then other people have this incentive as well. And now we compete. How do we compete to be the first? There is, in addition, a mathematical riddle, one which can be solved only with a trial and error mechanism. Meaning I need to invest energy with my computer or with my computer farm in order to solve this math problem. Meaning I need to invest a lot of money in order to win. And that gives me a very strong incentive as a person who tries to validate transaction, not to bluff. Meaning it gives me a very strong incentive that I would have a very good and legitimate block that I approve. Because if this block is not legitimate, everybody could see it in a second, and then all the energy that I've put into it would go to waste. So it's easily to be verified by everybody in the network. So by design, every 10 minutes, there is a new block, and this block is verified. It can be verified by everybody, and the person who has verified that block gets the 6.25 Bitcoins. And this is the only way that Bitcoin can be created. There's no command P in order to create more Bitcoins. I cannot decide that now I want more Bitcoins to be created. So this way we have a monetary system which is fully safe, which has a finite amount of money, and which is totally distributed. There is no one organization or one company or one person who can control it or who can change the rules. The rules are wide open for everybody, and we cannot change them. So what is Bitcoin good for? Let's have a quick recap. So as we said, it's a great store of value. Because of its finite amount, there can't be inflation here. It's like digital gold rather than digital money. It's a very good store of value. It gives me individual sovereignty, meaning I can use it as I wish. If we say that in banks, the bank can decide to take away my money or to prevent a transaction, there's no such thing as Bitcoin. If Alice decides to send Bob Bitcoin, nobody in the world can stop her, sorry. And no one can take it away. If Alice has Bitcoins, nobody can reach with their filthy hand and take these Bitcoins away. They're Alice's. Technically, nobody can take it, ever. It's great for international and online settlements, meaning if I'm here in Tel Aviv and there's another person in Beijing, if I will try to send money using, let's say, using my bank, it would be hell. They'll take a lot of commission, and it would take 3 days. With Bitcoin, in 10 minutes, that person would have the money. And it's a great global unit of account. We all speak in the same coin. Bitcoin here equals Bitcoin there. And it's a great solution for the non-banked because you don't need to have a bank account in order to hold Bitcoin. The only thing you need is a simple computer, and even that's not necessary. Everybody can hold Bitcoin. Everybody can be in the monetary game as opposed to the currently monetary system. And well, as for privacy, we'll talk about it in a second, it gives you pseudonymity. And this raises a question, why do fraudsters target Bitcoin? And now we're starting to talk about fraud, everybody. So Why do fraudsters target Bitcoin? Well, first of all, Bitcoin is good. I mean, as a fraudster, I wouldn't try to get anything which is crappy. I would try to get things which are good. And since Bitcoin is digital gold, as a fraudster, I'll try to get it. Now, it's very easy to liquidate. If I have Bitcoin, I can very easily exchange it to money, to fiat money in exchanges, and I can also buy stuff with it. It's very easy to store. Cash, I need a physical place to store. Money in the bank, well, I need to have a bank account, and that might be a problem with KYC. For storing Bitcoin, I don't need more than my phone or even a paper note. The transfer here are near immediate, so I don't need to wait for 3 days until the money that I'm stealing or the Bitcoin that I have stolen would wait for 3 days until they are transferred. It's near immediate. And once I get it as a fraudster, it's mine. It's irreversible. If we said that nobody can take the Bitcoin away from the person, well, once I got the Bitcoin from the victim, it's irreversible. Nobody can take it back. And it provides me with pseudonymity, meaning it's not anonymity. Everybody knows and everybody can see that address A has sent Bitcoin to address B. But if I shut up, nobody can know who is behind address A. It's just like in Reservoir Dogs. There was Mr. Orange and Mr. White and Mr. Brown and Mr. Blue. But until anybody there told their real name, they didn't know much more than that. They just knew their colors, not more than that. Now, let's look at some very common fraud scenarios. Let's start with the old school fraud of Bitcoin. So, most old school is, I'm a fraudster, I'm now obtaining a huge list of credit card numbers from the dark web, and now I'm going to buy Bitcoin with stolen credit cards from Bitcoin merchants. Just like buying anything else with a stolen credit card. Now here the merchant's challenge is that, in opposed to like selling shoes, you know, if I'm a merchant of shoes, I can offer my customers that I will send the shoes tomorrow, and I have all day long in order to analyze whether it's fraud or not. But here it's a digital good. The legitimate customer expects to get it now, and so does the fraudster. So I don't have all day now to analyze whether it's fraud or not. I need to analyze now, at this moment, whether it's fraud or not. And of course, there is a seller fraud for Bitcoin buyers. I can create now a fake exchange. I can offer people to buy Bitcoin. They send me money. I send them nothing. That's very simple, very old school. Let's look specifically at scenarios which damage Bitcoin sellers. Well, first of all, there are the seller fraud for people paying with Bitcoin with too good to be true deals. For example, let's say I'm a fraudster. I'm now posting an ad for come rent my apartment for a very, very low amount. Many people will want that. And I will ask for the payment in Bitcoin. They will send me an advance payment in Bitcoin, and then I just run away. There are the third-party scams. As a fraudster, I'm calling one of the elderly, and I'm saying, hello, I'm from Microsoft, and we have seen there's a virus on your computer, and we need to handle it. First, pay me with Bitcoin. Oh, it's too complicated? No problem. Let me take over your computer. It's a service we do. They install TeamViewer, etc. I take over their computer. They do one purchase of Bitcoin. They go away, and then I use their computer in order to buy Bitcoins. And of course, there's a ransomware where, as a fraudster, I encrypt some poor person's computer, and I tell them, you want your data back? Well, send me Bitcoin. And here's since I'm very UX friendly, here are specific instructions of how to buy Bitcoin and how to send it. Now, here the challenge is for the Bitcoin sellers because they're getting friendly frauded. I mean, nothing here is the Bitcoin seller's fault. The Bitcoin seller has sold Bitcoin to a legitimate user, to a legitimate customer who paid with a legitimate card. Now, after getting the Bitcoin, the victim has paid with Bitcoin to somebody else, but now that victim feels bad. I mean, hey, as a victim, I paid money, I got nothing, so although it's my fault, I'm feeling very bad. It's just not right. Now, I can't catch that fraudster, so let's target the second one in the list, the person who sold me Bitcoin. And again, it's not the Bitcoin seller's fault, and this is very hard cases of friendly fraud, either Simplex. Simplex is excelling in handling this kinds of stuff, and AcroCharge are excelling in handling dealing with friendly fraud when it's being submitted. And a third common fraud scenario, which of Bitcoin specials, first is the account takeover, which is very interesting here because let's say, in different from real world, if I give you the key to my apartment and you enter my apartment, it's still my apartment. You're burglaring, but it's my apartment. But if you get a hold of my private key, meaning if you get a hold of the thing that is controlling my Bitcoin address, well, it's yours. It belongs to you, rightfully. So fraudsters here target to get users' private keys because once they have them, they control the Bitcoin and nothing can be done about it. Also, having account takeover on let's say exchanges and brokers' accounts is also very popular because again, there is no regulation here. If, for example, I try to take over someone else's bank account, well, the bank will suffer losses. But eventually, in many cases, the end customer will be covered because of the regulator. Here, nobody regulates the exchanges. So if I take a hold of another person's Bitcoin account in some kind of an exchange, well, tough. I mean, the victim doesn't have too much to do. And of course, there's a classical $5 wrench attack. If up until now we talked about, technology and private keys, public keys, etc. Well, the simplest way is I agree with somebody to buy his Bitcoins. He sells me his Bitcoins, and when he expects to get my money, I wave my $5 wrench and he runs away, and I go away with the Bitcoin. So a few conclusions. So first, Bitcoin is, as we said, digital gold, not digital money. And now eventually fiat money will fail because it always does, it always did along history. Now, it's not necessarily that Bitcoin will replace fiat money, but if it does, we can expect that Bitcoin value will go higher and fraud attempts will shift there much more than today. A few questions. If you have, in addition, I'll be happy to answer, but first of all, we have here in front of us some very common questions. If you want me to focus on one of them, please mention so. If you have additional questions, please say so. I'll be happy to answer them. Anyone?
I tried asking. Sorry, go ahead.
Brilliant presentation. Just a comment, not question.
I agree on the brilliant presentation, and I couldn't believe that I'm laughing throughout such a depressing topic of both inflation and the mistrust of traditional finance as well as cryptocurrency scams. I tried asking on the chat about Bitcoin halving, maybe the halving of Bitcoin that happened this week. If anyone of other crypto fanatics wants to go deeper, then maybe we can stay a little longer afterwards. But I will also use this this chance to say again, thank you, and to invite everyone here. If Asa can stay with us just for a couple more minutes, for people who have more questions, yeah, I think you're welcome to stay on, but at this point I will again, to spare everyone's time, say thank you from the bottom of my heart, both Reka and Asa and Oren, of course, and Raviv. This has been an incredible meetup in sheer absolute numbers of participants and retention of people who stayed all the way through. Bravo. And now's a good time to call our parents and grandparents after hearing so much about fraudsters targeting the elderly. So see you, everyone. Bye. Asa, if you feel like answering my question from before.
Sure. And I see here another question from Zach in the chat. So let me start, please, with Zach's question. You're asking whether the government can take away my money from my bank account or only from bonds. Well, they can take it from the bank account as well. Two good examples is from Cyprus 2012. In one weekend, the government in Cyprus has decided to take 6.75% of the money from accounts in a specific bank because they have thought that many people there were laundering money. So they took 6.75% of money from all people. Another good example is Israel 1984. In order to show external central banks that Israel has a good US dollars balance, the Bank of Israel has taken as a loan all of the dollar deposits from Israelis' accounts in order to show it in their balance. They return it later on, but they've done it and they will do it again. Gilit, for your question regarding the halving, this is very interesting. 2 days ago, it was Monday night, there was a very dramatic event in the Bitcoin arena, the halving of the award. As we mentioned earlier, every time that a block is being signed, Bitcoins are being created. New Bitcoins are being created. This is called mining. And this is the only way Bitcoin is being created. And the person who is verifying the block is the one who is getting this reward. Now, on the first day of Bitcoin, the reward was 50 Bitcoins. And by design, every about 4 years, the reward is being halved. Now, why is it being halved? Because eventually we need to have a finite amount of Bitcoins. Eventually there will be 21 million Bitcoins, no more. So in order to do so, the rate of producing Bitcoins must go down. So every 4 years, the rate goes down by half. So if on Sunday, the reward for mining a block was 12.5 Bitcoins, today is 6.25. Now this makes Bitcoin with a fantastic stock-to-flow ratio, second only to gold, and by 2022 it would be the only commodity, the commodity with the best stock-to-flow ratio, and Bitcoin is actually also the only commodity in the world with finite supply. You can't produce more than that. And if you remember, we've mentioned earlier the consensus. This means that nobody can now decide that there will be more Bitcoins at 21 million, or now let's go up with the rate of producing back to 12.5. Because you need consensus, you need everybody to agree on that. And that's something that will never happen. So this actually assures that we will have eventually 21 million Bitcoins. And the nice thing about it, that it happened in the same time frame where the US Federal Reserve has decided to print more and more and more dollars. So while you see the market being flooded with dollars, and that's why the stock market is going up, you see how Bitcoin goes the opposite way and limiting itself. And that's why distributed money would always be better than government-controlled money.
Do you have time for one more question?
All the time you need. Let's see. I'm reading it from the chat, or the question from the chat, or another one?
I want to ask if it's okay.
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
Go ahead.
What can someone do, to protect themselves against such frauds?
That depends who you are. Well, as a person who holds Bitcoin, trust no one naturally, and this reflects to Reka's presentation earlier, meaning the world is full of fraudsters, and everybody will try to get your money. If you have your money, may it be dollars, shekels, or bitcoins, never trust anybody. Never provide your password. Never provide your private keys, of course. Never keep your sensitive data in places where that can be accessed by strangers. Now, if you're a Bitcoin seller, well, that's a whole new field of knowledge that companies that handle anti-fraud know best how to handle it, and it's quite a challenge. It's not easy at all. I see in the chat there's a question from Ronan regarding there is no way in blockchain to dispute reverse a transaction. Hi, Ronan. And I see you believe this is something that will be needed in the future in order to make crypto more mainstream. Oh, very good question. Okay, so here the answer is no and yes. The part of the no is the Bitcoin blockchain can never change. I mean, as I said, the rules cannot be changed. It requires consensus, and that consensus will never be achieved. For me, as a Bitcoin holder, I don't want to have it reversible, because then, if I pay somebody can now move it back. But you are correct that it's very hard to have a payment system that does not have the ability to reverse. And that's exactly why Bitcoin is digital gold and not digital money. The solution for that would be to create a second layer solution above Bitcoin. Let's call it the Ronen coin. So Ronen coin can say, okay, I'm based on Bitcoins. One Ronen coin equals one Bitcoin by definition. I can publish one Ronen coin each time I get one Bitcoin. But in the Ronen coin rules, it is reversible and it can be disputed, and you have my disputable system, and if someone wants to file a chargeback, well, they can use the Ronen coin and dispute a chargeback to Ronen. That way, you can provide a monetary system which has its own rules, meaning you can have it reversible and enabling chargebacks while still relying on Bitcoins. Meaning, if you, as the private company which provided the Ronen coin, if you decide you want to provide this kind of solution, go right ahead. You can do it. You will be liable for it. But Bitcoin itself can never be reversible.
Okay, thanks, Asa.
Thank you.
Are there any reversible coins out there?
Oh yeah, it's worse than reversible. First of all, of course, all the fiat money is reversible, but also almost all the cryptocurrencies except for a few. For example, Ether is a reversible, and we've seen a very good example when there was a first attack on Ethereum. Vitalik has decided that it was not legitimate, and then he reversed it. And then there was a fork creating the Ethereum Classic and the current Ethereum. Now, is it good? I think not, because here you have a committee or a person that decides that one transaction is okay and one transaction is not, although they were both totally legitimate according to the code. So today I have the government to decide what's legitimate and what's not and reverse transactions. So why should I exchange my government for Vitalik's government? He's not any better than them. Humans are humans. So only a true decentralized solution can ensure that your money stays yours.
Got it. I think that we will hold next any additional questions to private channels, and once again say thank you to Raviv and Reka and Asa. Bravo. And yeah, people are applauding virtually, and rightfully so. Bravo. Thank you again, Asa.
Thank you very much. And of course, I'll be happy to answer more questions if there are in private channels. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.